She came to forget one moment and forgot who she was. When I erased myself. The recording began at 7:03, a gray morning. The empty lobby of the clinic, washed in the cold glow of fluorescent lights. On the security footage, a woman in a white coat steps out of room 4. She walks confidently, almost mechanically, as if she already knows the way. Turn left, past the coffee machines toward the glass door. She doesn't look back, doesn't hesitate. In her right hand, a folder with no name. The receptionist glances up but doesn't ask questions. She's been here before. The elevator doors close smoothly, reflecting her silhouette in the steel. Fair-haired, pale face, blank eyes. She fades in the mirror like a fingerprint on glass. In another room, a therapist watches the same recording. He leans back in his chair and makes a note. Erased 7 core memories. Associated 14 events. Name-based self-identification. Temporarily disabled. He presses pause. The frame shows only an empty hallway. Her name was Leah, or Hannah, or perhaps Maria. No one could say for sure. The file is confidential and the procedure irreversible. Some patients prefer to begin with a clean slate. No scars, no guilt, no past. She chose to forget. At first, a specific day, the accident. Then everything connected to it. Fear of roads, the driver's face, the smell of gasoline, someone's hand on her shoulder. And then it spread further. Interwoven threads, emotional loops, echoes in unrelated memories. They warned her, memory can't be cleanly cut. It's not an archive, it's a web. Pull one node, and dozens unravel. But she insisted, signed the form, said, I don't want to remember, not this. Not who I became after. The woman in white disappears from the camera frame. In the next clip, she's standing at a bus stop, holding the handrail like it's her first time. Her fingers tremble. Her face isn't confused. It's quiet, a calm with no foundation. She erased everything that hurt, along with everything that was hers. The room was calibrated to the millimeter. Soft lighting, a faint scent of eucalyptus, a chair with a high back, and a table with no sharp edges. The interior held nothing that might trigger a memory. The therapist spoke calmly as if reading a manual. Memory isn't a storage unit. It doesn't live in one place. It's the intersection of neurons, emotions, physical reactions, and images. I understand, she said. Number. You want to understand, but you want to forget more than you know. He slid out a tablet and traced his finger across the screen. A map appeared, as complex as a subway system, but instead of stations, there were moments. Traumatic nodes glowed red, associative offshoots in yellow, neutral zones in gray, indirectly connected. You've marked the date, April 13th. That's the epicenter. But look, it's tied to this conversation, this trip, this person. If we erase only one, you'll be left with phantom pain, an empty space in the system. He paused. The suppression method was developed post-catastrophe, initially for veterans, assault survivors, witnesses to mass tragedies, but it soon spread wider. The principle is simple. We deactivate the neural clusters linked to emotionally charged triggers. We don't erase facts, we disable the binding emotion. Side effects? She asked. He nodded. Emotional fragmentation, false memories, resuppression syndrome, identity boundary loss. That's why society had to adapt. We now have memory passports with procedural stamps, support groups for the restored. Some employers even require full disclosure of erasures. What if I don't disclose it? That's your choice. But the truth leaks anyway. Even erased memories leave traces in behavior. She said nothing. Her face held no fear, only fatigue. You'll go through with it anyway, won't you? Yes, even if it means partial loss of identity. Especially then. She signed the consent form, precisely by protocol. 2 digital strokes, 1 gaze into the camera. They gave her half an hour for final fixation. She sat at a table, picked up a pen. The page remained mostly blank, just one sentence in the center. If I forget, then maybe it was meant to be. Then a scanner flash, a drop on her tongue, and the descent. Not instant, not cinematic, gradual, like water slowly flooding a slope. When she opened her eyes, her name was, she didn't know what it was, but the room smelled of eucalyptus, and for some reason, she wanted to cry. She woke without the feeling of waking. The room was bright, almost sterile. Nothing extra. White walls, a chair by the window, a neatly folded set of clothes on a chair. On the nightstand, a passport. She opened it. There was a name inside. It meant nothing to her. A mirror hung opposite the bed. She looked at the reflection and found no error, only emptiness. No recognition, no rejection. A face like the cover of a book you're holding for the first time. Maybe interesting, maybe yours. On the table was a sheet of paper. You live here. Today is your first day. Beneath it, a careful list. 1. Brush your teeth. 2. Breakfast, yogurt in the fridge. 3. Go for a walk, key by the door, left. 4. Don't be afraid if something feels strange. The morning was cool. She walked along the buildings, listening to the sounds as if learning from scratch. People nodded, smiled. Someone said, "Good morning, Miss Ellen." She smiled back, holding the expression a few seconds longer. Just in case. The name felt foreign. It floated in the air, never quite touching her skin. Outside the bakery, she stopped, not remembering why. She felt she was supposed to buy something or say something, but the thought slipped away. Suddenly, her heart pounded harder, for no reason, as if the body knew what the mind had lost. Later, she sat on a bench and took out a small notebook. On the first page, someone, maybe herself, had written, "Write down everything, even the small things. They'll help you piece yourself back together." She wrote, bench, tree, pigeon nearby. I'm not afraid, not happy, just seeing. That evening, opening the closet, she found a wool scarf. The smell triggered a faint, painful stirring inside, but it faded before it could anchor. That night, she dreamed, a warm hand in hers. But by morning, she couldn't remember. Whose? Only the feeling remained. Light, alive, and a strange ache in her fingers, as if the hands still reached forward. She sat on the floor, hugging her knees, and tried to invent a memory. To invent is to feel, and to feel is to be. But all she could imagine was a woman in white walking down a hallway, and a sense that something important had been left behind that door. It began with a scent. She was standing in line at the pharmacy when someone nearby sprayed perfume, an indescribable, metallic floral. For a moment, everything inside her clenched. Her throat went dry, fingers tensed. She stepped back without knowing why. The smell faded, and so did the feeling. Like a short circuit, a flash, then darkness again. That night, she dreamed of a bright light, like headlights, and silence. Heavy, unnatural. In the dream, she held someone's hand. In the morning, she didn't remember whose, but her palm still reached for something. At the playground, a boy fell and started to cry. A woman passing by lifted him up, held him close, and suddenly, Ellen's whole body flinched. Something in that gesture, that tone, the child's tears, triggered a dull, pulling spasm under her ribs. She sat on the nearest bench and felt tears welling up on their own, without thought, without reason, like rain when the sky is still clear. That evening, someone knocked on the door. A man in his 40s stood there, dark eyes, too calm. "Hi," he said. She stayed silent. "I understand. You don't recognize me. I'm Mark. We were close. Before. He didn't finish. His voice held gentleness and pain, the kind that can't be faked. She looked at him like a character from a story once read aloud in childhood. Something familiar, but distant, faded. "You were different," he said after a pause. "Tough, but real, sometimes sharp, sometimes unbearable. But there was warmth, alive, even when it hurt." He lowered his gaze. "I don't know if I want you to come back." The words echoed oddly, not as insult, not as a sting, just distance, as if their past held something he didn't want to reopen. "I'm sorry," he added. "I don't know if it was right to come, but you deserve to know. You had a life, a real one." After he left, she found an old box under the bed. Inside, photos, her face next to his. A beach, laughter, water, and one photo. She's in pajamas, hugging someone half cropped from the frame. On the back, a child's handwriting, "Mom." Everything she erased was beginning to resurface, like a burned scar, hidden, but the skin still remembers. She didn't sleep that night, sat by the window wrapped in that same scarf. It smelled of dust, of time, and something faintly familiar. Inside her, a silent well opened, deep, with no walls, but with echo. Each time she tried to touch the silence, it responded with a shift, not a thought, not an image, but the absence of something vital. She played the flash drive again, the one from the box. On screen, the clinic room, a voice off camera. "Why do you want to forget?" "Because I can't live with it anymore." "With what exactly?" "With who I became afterward." Pause. "I'm tired of pain, of anger, of guilt. I want to be clean." "But pain is what makes us—" "Not me." She skipped ahead. In another recording, the same woman, a different voice. It was full of life, even as she cried, even as she said, "I feel. That means I'm alive." And suddenly it clicked. She hadn't erased the pain. She'd erased its imprint, as if cutting out a seam, and the fabric came undone. In the morning, she tried calling Mark. The number hadn't changed. Ringing and ringing. No answer. No voicemail. She hung up and closed her eyes. Not out of hurt, out of understanding. This was a path she'd have to walk alone. At the clinic, no one recognized her. "I need to get myself back," she said. "Everything I erased." "That's not standard protocol." "But is it possible?" The staffer looked away. "There's an experimental procedure. Fragmentary reconstruction. Side effects unpredictable. False memories. Emotional overload. Loss of reality boundaries." "That's fine." "Do you understand the risks?" For the first time, yes. Before the procedure, she sat once more at the white table. A pen, a sheet of paper. But this time the sentence was different. "If I remember, it means there's still something worth living for." Purity without pain had become emptiness, and what she wanted, it was wholeness. The procedure didn't begin dramatically. She wasn't sedated, no machines, no capsule. It was simpler. She sat in a chair and put on headphones. A screen in front of her. Blurry images, flashes of words, smells, sounds. They were fed to her one by one, slowly like a needle through torn cloth. It was called emotional reconstruction induction, and it hurt. At first, only fragments. Shards of glass embedded in the upholstery of a child's car seat. The air, a blend of rain and gasoline. Ringing in her ears from the inside out. Someone's bootstrap dangling under the seat. A scream. Female. Cracking. Then only rasping. Her whole body curled into itself. Her heart beat like a warning drum. Then a kitchen. A scorched pot. Someone's hand breaking a pencil. Piece by piece, not logical but sensory, she returned. Not whole, not yet, but with pain. Then by the voices, a child calling her, "Mom, Ma." And then silence, sharp as a blade. In that pause was everything: loss, despair, guilt, and the attempt to erase herself just so she wouldn't feel it. Day by day, she continued. Sometimes the memories felt alien, sometimes unbearable. But between the bursts of fear, other fragments began to appear. The wind from that same beach, goofy laughter, a hand running through her hair, a voice saying, "You'll make it. You always have." One morning she woke up and remembered the smell of home after rain. Then, the boy's face, his eyelashes, his warm forehead. She cried, not from pain, from finally feeling alive. In the mirror, herself, not who she was, but real, with scars, with cracks, with memory, like cloth stitched back with uneven but strong thread. The morning was clear, the air cool, fresh, as if washed clean by the night's rain. She stood before the mirror, making tea, without hurry, without fear. On the kitchen radio, quiet jazz where ease and faint familiarity blended. Everything looked lived in, but not sterile. A chipped mug, an old tablecloth with a wine stain, a photo on the fridge, her and a boy laughing, soaked in rubber boots. She stepped closer to the mirror. The face looking back wasn't perfect. Fine lines, dark circles under the eyes, a small scar near the temple. But something in that face finally lived. Not a mask, not a void, not the echo of someone else's will. She no longer called herself by the name in the passport. The name hadn't returned. It had been born again, like a habit, a gesture, a rhythm. She simply knew, this is me. Sometimes the memories came uninvited. On the subway was the screech of brakes, and that curve flashing behind her eyes. On a shelf, a box of children's drawings and a tightening in her chest. She didn't push them away, didn't suppress them. She simply breathed through it. Sometimes she wrote sensations in her notebook, not to avoid forgetting, but to learn how to stay with herself, even when it hurt. Today I remembered and didn't flinch. That's not a wound anymore. It's love. A boy appeared in the doorway, about 6, messy-haired, in pajamas. "You're not sleeping?" "In my dream, someone called me. I think it was you." She knelt down, ran her hand through his hair. "Maybe. I used to lose you. Now I try to stay close." He hugged her, awkwardly childlike, but firmly. "You're warm now," he said, "like there's a sun inside you." She smiled. "Maybe there is." Later, stepping outside, they stopped in front of a shop window. Their reflections, adult and child, side by side. Real. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't look away. The scars remained. Her memory wasn't whole. But now she had a story and the right not to forget it.